Global Transformation Astrology, GTA, with William Stickevers.
Every 84 to 92 years, America goes through a fourth turning period in its history. And in that book, it made predictions based on an imminent fourth turning that would begin sometime after 2005 and last into the late 2020s, possibly 2030, which coincided with the onset of the 2008 financial crisis. So the premises of their work was it was a generational archetypes shift the era, and that these occur approximately every 84 years to 92 years. 84 years is a Uranus return. So I just stick to the 84 year. And by just doing that and subdividing out history from 84 years, it perfectly works with World War II, the Civil War, the American Revolution. And we're now we're already there now. So the book, the forthcoming book, the sequel, you always have to have a sequel. You have the first book, The Fourth Turning, 1997. The fourth turning is here. That's being written by Neil Howe. That'll be out in July. I'll be getting that book. So we know, right, the fourth turning, the concept here is that each turning lasts approximately 24, 25 years. And this fourth turning started in 2008 with the great financial crisis. And since 2008, what have we seen? Political conflict across the US and Europe, the COVID pandemic and COVID lockdowns, deglobalization, climate change. And when I say climate change, we have seen certain shifts in the climate. I do not buy into that, into the global warming narrative, but we're seeing certainly extreme weather, right? We have an energy crisis and also the breakout of the Russian-Ukraine war, and a number of other events included in that. Now, during this fourth crisis, which makes this fourth crisis extremely unique, is we will go through the Pluto return. The United States, by the time the fourth turning crisis is over, the US will have completed its US Pluto return, which technically started when Pluto went exact in December 2022 and will dominate until 2028. And throughout history, every planetary return to the US horoscope is associated with a fourth turning crisis period. Just go back to the Great Depression, World War II, when we had the prior fourth turning, we had the Neptune return. If you go back to the Civil War fourth turning event 84 years prior, we had the first Uranus return for the US. So the first Uranus return happened during the Civil War, the first Neptune return during the Great Depression, World War II, and now the first Pluto return will be happening or started during the COVID crisis and the series of crises we've been having following COVID. So we have that, and that's why it's very important. Pluto is the linchpin. So if you have any alignment with Mars, Jupiter, and Pluto, you have to realize that Pluto is extremely powerful because that Pluto is making constant impacts to the natal Pluto of the US independence horoscope. Now, I'm going to tie this all together, and we'll go back to the UFO question and nature of extraterrestrials, what this all means, why this is important, why this isn't going away, and why your life is never going to be the same afterwards, especially now that AI and the UFOs and cryptocurrencies, right, are all going to merge together into a type of world that will radically restructure it at a level far greater, far deeper, far vaster, far more complex than any astrologer, including Nostradamus himself, could predict. Because I can tell you right now, the astrological community is underestimating, marginalizing, playing down, going more partisan, either right or left. They believe the world of 1999 is still here. That is over. We are going through the death. That's why everybody is a little bit depressed, right? I was going to talk about social defeat. There's actually a term, social defeat. It's actually a sociological phenomenon. And that's why people since COVID are socially defeated. There's a sense of defeatism going on, demoralization going on. And this is all part of a death process. It's almost like when you finally realize, I'm not going to live. I've been told I have 6 months to live, and then you're angry and you deny it. And then finally you accept it. And you go through a bit of this demoralization. And then the death, the breakdown, decay that leads to the death, always follows with a rebirth. Now, we could say that in terms of literal physical death, that could be what people experience from the thousands upon thousands of near-death experience testimony we have on YouTube and books that go back over 100 years in depth. Anyone who has any doubts about this, I would suggest you write this down. Eben Alexander, E-B-E-N Alexander, Dr. Eben Alexander, one of the top neurologists, brain surgeons in the world, right? Take his testimony and you realize there was a rebirth. And this is something he talks about, someone who was a devout atheist before he had his near-death experience. So we have to remember the transformation. Anytime an astrologer uses the word transformation, what they tend to forget in general is they use a very new age 1960s or Aquarian conspiracy 1980s. Transformation always implies what? Breakdown, decay, death, right? Transformation, then rebirth. And then you could say, from a sociological perspective, a renaissance to follow, right? Rebirth, renaissance, they both pretty much mean the same thing. And that's what humanity is going through now. So it is the death. That's why this all represents a death of the old identity. And we're going to go deeper into that. But I just want to preface this, that this is really what this Pluto return, this fourth turning is about, right? So amidst these global crises, the astrological event of Pluto's return that started in December 2022, adding an esoteric layer to the discussion now, all right? Because as we know, Pluto represents transformative change, destruction, and rebirth, aligning with the significant societal shifts that characterize a fourth turning period. The Pluto return, as we know, is going to dominate. I think we can all feel that. I think a lot of people have just thought Trump will be reelected and everything will be fixed. All right, he will redeem us, right? You could see that is sort of like probably not going to happen, right? It almost seems like the deep state is going to win. So this is like that sense of domination. And it suggests that we can expect this period of upheaval and transformation to continue for several years. And this period calls for resilience and adaptability as society navigates the disruption and challenges posed by this time of intense change. So while the future is indeed unfathomable and unknowable, this framework offers a perspective on the profound shifts happening during this significant period of history. So this is very important here, that Pluto deals with what? Not just the transformational, but indeed what is unfathomable and unknowable, or it's like an unknown unknown. It's one thing, yeah, there could be alien life out there and those craft observing us, and that's sort of like an unknown, a known unknown, right? We know something's going on, but we don't know much about it. But Pluto implies it's going to be revelations of an unknown nature that are unfathomable. They're not something that we've really contemplated.
To watch the full presentation and more like this on geopolitics, the economy, and world events from an archetypal and mundane astrological perspective, join the Global Transformation Astrology membership. Go to gta.williamstickevers.com. Become a GTA member today.